Hey everybody, we are at HiRez Expo 2018 today. I'm joined by Matt Marshall, aka HiRezJuju. Matt, can you tell us a little bit about what your position is with HiRez?
Sure. I do community right now. They brought me on initially for console specifically. Since then, just kind of branched out a little bit and take care of console, PC. I work with Alyssa and Nicholas on the community team for Paladins.
Fantastic. So obviously a lot of announcements for Paladins this week. The big one obviously being Battlegrounds. We talked to Todd a little bit about that earlier today. I tried to get a little bit more information from him about Team Deathmatch, which is and Moji, which are the other two big things, and he didn't have as much to offer on that. He's obviously very involved with the Battlegrounds project, as big as it is. So I'm hoping we can talk to you a little bit more about Team Deathmatch and why the decision to include that was, like, what prompted that? What sort of led up to that?
So with Team Deathmatch, you know, if anyone's been following Paladins for a little while, you've probably seen some of our other modes that we have. One of them, we had Onslaught, we did Survival, which was really the very, very early precursor to Battlegrounds and the overall idea. And so one thing that all of our past modes have had in common is just a central objective. TDM was a move to kind of like take a step back and just break it down to the basics with a fast and furious, old school, just team deathmatch where you have two teams and you just go at it and kill each other. And there's no side objectives that players really need to contend or have to worry about.
Okay. And one question I want to ask on camera for the world to see is possibility of a ranked TDM?
It really just depends how popular it is. If we see a lot of people really liking it, really enjoying it, if the demand's there to justify splitting the queues, then absolutely. It's something that could be in the cards. Just depend. Like I said, we'll see how things turn out, see how the response is.
Now, cards. Let's talk about cards for a minute. And how will you still have access to the full library of cards that you would in other modes for Team Deathmatch?
Yes, Team Deathmatch and all of our modes that we've been working on, you know, ones that are going and moving forward, are going to be in the Unbound queue because that is the system that is in mind when we're designing a lot of these modes.
Okay. And do you feel like there are characters that might function better in Team Deathmatch, or possibly the flip side of that coin? Do you feel like balance might be an issue with how characters might not be viable in Team Deathmatch, and how are you guys approaching that?
So that's one of the interesting things when you're looking at all these different modes that we have, is that if you look at any individual mode, there's always the standout stars of that mode. From anyone who's been looking at the Battlegrounds footage for that upcoming mode, you see people like Grover doing exceptionally well, where maybe he doesn't do as well in, let's say, Siege. But then, so for something like Team Deathmatch, I imagine we're going to see the burstier characters probably doing a little bit better. But I think overall, the balance itself is something that we try to think of all the different champions when we're making these modes and whatnot, and we try to find things that work. And if we have to, you know, restrict the champion because of some kind of an issue, that would probably be the route that would go. But at this time, the plan is that, you know, all champions are going to be available and players are free to experiment as they wish.
Okay, cool. One of the other things I did want to talk to you about while we've got you here is Moji. Obviously, and friends. We don't want to forget the friends. Moji has been on the public test server for how long?
Well, as soon as we announced Moji at HRX, we brought up the PTS server, let people get in, try her out. She's there right now. So it's been, maybe 2 days, a little over 2 days.
And what would you say separates Moji from other flankers? Because a lot of flankers, and this is like I was mentioning earlier in an earlier video, a lot of flankers seem focused on like high mobility, single target kind of gameplay. What makes Moji different, and what makes Moji unique? What's going to make her stand out from the pack?
Sure. So the flank class has been one that's kind of evolved and changed as Paladins has changed. I mean, we had going back, flanks had a lot of mobility, and that was kind of the thing. And then that's changed to, you know, some have burst damage, others function through denial, whether it's finding a way to be immune or having a way to, like Eevee's Ice Block, for example. With Moji, Moji is a champion that she's more of a flex in that you could easily see someone using her like a damage. You know, she's able to put out that sustained damage. She doesn't have a reload, but she also has her ability, which allows her to turn immune. And so I think what she brings that's unique right now is that she is another champion who's very flexible, but she still does excel at one person because of the stack mechanic. That single target up close burst is still very much her defining factor, I would say.
Fantastic. And again, I'm really glad to see flanks get another character. The flank roster has been a little bit lacking when you compare it to roles like damage that have characters on characters forever. What's next for the Paladins roster? Can you give us a little bit of insight into what is beyond, what lies on the other side of Moji?
Sure. It's really internally we always kind of play these ones close to the chest, but we do have multiple champions. There's always a champion in design, and so for us, it's a matter of trying to kind of tease things out, and there has been teases of future champions for people who pay close attention, and it's just buried there, for people to discover. And I've seen people throwing some ideas around, and some of those might be right, some might be wrong, but I would recommend, looking as we're releasing more and more lore. I think you'll see more and more references to possible future things.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you for stopping in. We really appreciate you taking time to answer some questions. Once again, this has been Matt Marshall, a.k.a. HiRezJuju. You can follow him on Twitter at
SuperBadJuju.
Yeah, at SuperBadJuju. And as always, keep it locked on MMOHuts.com for all your latest gaming news and reviews.